At this point, it's been more than a decade since the software on the iPhone has gotten a new design. And even though we see a new version of iOS year after year with some nice features and improvements, it's just kinda looked the same for a while now. It's left a lot of people wanting something different, and in just a couple of months, it sounds like Apple is about to deliver just that. As iOS 19 is shaping up to be a pivotal update for the iPhone, they're planning an all-new camera app, a more dynamic version of Siri, refined AI features, and a major visual overhaul across the entire system. And that last part is pretty significant because in the history of the iPhone as a product, Apple has only changed the look of iOS one time before. All the way back 12 years ago in June of 2013 when we got the infamous iOS 7 update. This was the update where overnight Apple eliminated all the details, the shadows, and the texture of iOS 6 in favor of a new flat aesthetic based on simplicity, bold lines, and bright colors. Which to this day is probably the most controversial thing that Apple has ever shipped as a company. I mean, you almost had to be there at the time to remember the reactions of people to iOS 7. It was not well received. And honestly, I was shocked the year after that they stuck with it, and then another year, and we're 12 years in. Obviously, iOS 18 is way more refined. It looks a lot nicer than it did back in 2013. But the overarching flat aesthetic is what has defined more than a decade of the iPhone. It made me question if Apple would ever redesign the iPhone software again. Well, according to new rumors, the answer is yeah. They're getting ready to do another major iOS design overhaul this year. Without a doubt, minimalism is what defined the past 12 years of the iPhone. So looking into the future, what does Apple pick for the next 12 years of iOS? According to sources, iOS 19 is described to be sort of a mix between the current design language of iOS 18 mixed with visionOS on the Apple Vision Pro headset. And listen, say what you will about this $3,499 VR headset, if there is one thing that Apple nailed on this, it is the software. Elements in visionOS are shiny and translucent, apps and menus cast shadows, and the icons on the home screen are circular and they feel like they're part of your environment. So how does Apple make this feel native on the iPhone? Well, this is your first look at Apple's all-new camera app, redesigned from the ground up with a bunch of changes inspired by the software on Vision Pro. Apple is expanding the viewfinder to take up even more of the display, and previously static elements now float above what you're looking to capture. Everything feels a bit more panoramic and like it's easier to get immersed in what you're trying to capture. To switch between modes, there's a new drawer that expands from the bottom of your screen and reveals access to more granular settings and other customization options, improving the layout and usability while also making it look fresh. For me, it's way more straightforward. I find the current camera app to be pretty convoluted, and this looks like a nice change. Next, it's also possible that iOS 19 can add some new camera control features for the iPhone 16 series, which is why I partnered up with ESR, who sponsored today's video, to show you their brand new classic hybrid case that now features a camera control cover. By far, ESR's implementation is the best I've seen, and to me, it feels just as good as stock. The clicks, the taps, and the swipes, they feel one-to-one with a perfect camera control experience, and you're getting the added protection and peace of mind knowing that the button is protected. As with ESR's implementation of protected tempered glass, it could potentially save you up to $749 of repair costs. And on top of that, the seamless design also keeps the button free from dust. In addition to improving camera control, ESR has also made MagSafe stronger on the rear with a crazy impressive 1,500 grams of magnetic strength, which is over twice as strong as Apple's cases. And with shock-absorbing air guard corners, there's up to 11 feet of drop protection, which is 3 times the military-grade standard. Right now, you can grab ESR's Halo Lock Classic Hybrid case for yourself when you use my link down below in the description. A huge thank you to them for sponsoring and for protecting my phone. Now, let's get back to the video. Of course, though, iOS 19 isn't just going to be about the camera app, and if Apple is bringing elements of visionOS to the iPhone, they're likely going to change so many other parts at the exact same time. Like on the home screen, Apple could dramatically change the app icon, switching away from the iconic rounded rectangle design to be circular for the first time ever on the iPhone, and match the way that the icons already look on Apple Vision Pro, but also on the Apple Watch. Interestingly, Apple's 2 newest platforms. And just like Apple did with iOS 7, where they changed the look of every icon, we could see something similar based around these new circles with iOS 19, Apple rebuilding all of them again. Apple could update widgets on the home screen, changing their colorful gradients and opting for translucent panels of glass, also having the elements floating around just like windows on Vision Vision OS. And all of Apple's apps would likely be updated with some more modern designs as well. We've envisioned what a settings app could look like, where all of the elements again are floating on top of the background with these translucent panes. Something giving the interface a more tactile and lifelike feel rather than the flat rows that we currently have in the settings app. We wound up imagining a few different aspects of iOS 19 to visualize how these changes could appear across the entire system, taking the leaks we've seen from specific apps so far and applying them to different areas everywhere. In fact, the more that we played around with these designs, the more this became increasingly obvious to me that not only did it look more modern, it made a lot of sense, and it seemed like the direction that Apple's actually been pushing in for a while. See, if you want even more evidence that Apple is planning an iOS 19 redesign, just look at the two most recent apps that they've released in the past year. The first is Apple Sports, and the second is Apple Invites. First, Apple Sports allows you to see the scores of your favorite teams all in one place, but tap on the menu in the top right, and that doesn't look like native to iOS. That looks like a menu one-to-one from Vision OS, the look of Apple Vision on the iPhone. Apple Sports released about a year ago, which is interestingly right around the time that we first heard Apple was planning a Vision redesign for the product in the future. Keep in mind, this is something you can play with right now. You can download the Apple Sports app and see in your own hand what a Vision OS design would look like on the iPhone. Second, things are even more obvious in the Apple Invites app, where you can create invitations, as the layout of this app is maybe the best look yet is iOS 19, with the small windows packaged together on top of the app's background for more defined borders and a greater sense of space. Again, visualizing these changes in renders is one thing, but actually seeing this run on your own iPhone, it looks right already. It's a nice, classy, evolved version of iOS that adds more character without sacrificing the way it works. I think that was the mistake with iOS 7, is it felt dumbed down and unsophisticated. Imagine a more subtle, safer version that actually looks better than iOS 7. That's exactly what I expect iOS 19 to be. That's the design of iOS 19. But what about all the other features that Apple also has planned for the update? Well, we've heard more about a big one, and that is Apple restarting on Siri and fixing it once and for all. I know we've heard this before. I know I've told you on YouTube it was going to get fixed before, but this is actually legit. From what we're hearing, the new version of Siri is going to be Apple literally starting over from scratch, completely removing the framework for the old Siri and restarting with a new model based off of the same technology that ChatGPT or Google Gemini operates from. Essentially switching from a database of predefined static responses to a dynamic flowing model that you can talk to and interface with like a human, just like you would at ChatGPT. We visualized how this could look, where you could ask complex questions directly to Siri, and using the new large language architecture, the AI could tell you exactly what you wanted to know. This new version wouldn't need to reach out to a third party to process what you're asking. Siri would be able to answer them right away with a model that runs on your device, which is pretty much uncomparable to how Siri works currently. And that's why I believe it this time. I believe it because Apple is finally changing the problem underneath. They're not just putting band-aids on, they're not giving us a rainbow animation to distract us from how bad it is again. They're actually out with the old and in with the new. And if Siri has ever had a fix, like, that is it. Stop trying with what obviously hasn't worked for 15 years. It is time for something new. Although there is one catch here, and that is when this new version of Siri is going to end up being available. See, in recent years, Apple has started to shift the way that they release things, and iOS 19 is going to be the clearest and worst example of that yet. In the past, every June, Apple's held their Worldwide Developers WWDC conference, where they show off a bunch of new iOS iPhone features, and then they release them in beta. You get to test them, and the public release happens in September. You get all the cool stuff. According to sources, that is not what Apple's planning to do anymore, and WWDC is going to become more of a marketing aspirational conference for the company, where they're showing off all the cool things that your phone will eventually be able to do, a lot of which won't end up shipping until the following year. Like right now, for example, already, sources are saying that many features initially planned for the first version of iOS 19, turns out they're not actually going to be ready until spring of 2026 with iOS 19.4. Like this far away, more than a year out, Apple has already said, no way we can get all this done, but we gotta show something, so we're gonna show it off anyway and ship it later. Personally, I think this is a whack strategy and confusing for pretty much everybody involved, and I'm worried that it's just going to continue to undermine the importance of some of these features that Apple shows off with this massive pause in between showing it and actually releasing it. At the same time, it is a way for Apple to preview stuff they're working on and show it to customers, and more importantly, prove to investors that they have growth plans and big things are coming. I just share all of this to say, get ready to wait for the big stuff that Apple shows off. It's not going to be like in the past where Apple shows off a breakthrough feature and you get it on day one. They're going to show it off, and it could take up to a year for that to actually get on your phone. All that being said, we do have some silver lining for iOS 19, as Apple has reportedly planned out the devices that they are looking to support, and it is more than I expected. And according to one report, Apple is planning with iOS 19 to support the exact same set of iPhones as they support with iOS 18, which you can see publicly accessible on Apple's iOS 18 site. So from the newest iPhone 17 lineup releasing later this year, all the way back to 2018 with the iPhone XS, XS Max, and iPhone XR, which is honestly pretty impressive considering that those devices are 7 years old now, and the chips are absolutely going to be showing their age. Now, of course, some features like the current and future set of Apple Intelligence will still be exclusive to iPhone 15 Pro and newer, so Apple will not be magically adding AI features to these products with iOS 19. Everything else, though, you'll be getting on a 7-year-old iPhone, which is dope. Now, so far, this early on, these are the big things we know about iOS 19 and what's confirmed to be coming. But Apple is also working on a bunch of other features that have not yet leaked. So make sure you hit that subscribe button for more videos on iOS 19 as we get closer to the release of Beta 1 in June of this year. We are just a few months away from potentially the second design change Apple has ever made to iOS, and that is ridiculously exciting because things are stale. I'm ready for something new. And if I have to look at these rounded rectangle icons, even if they're in dark mode this year, again, I mean, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to switch to Android. What do you think I was going to say? I'm just going to deal with it, but I'm going to deal with it and be cranky. And that doesn't sound fun. So please change the design. Okay, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Drop a like, hit subscribe for more. And I've been Sam, and I will catch you in the next one. And I've been recording so long, I almost forgot who I was. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.